I'm Brad King, and this is Stories in Steel. On this episode of Stories in Steel, we sat down with world-renowned custom painter Pete Santini. Even though our environment was a bit noisy, it didn't stop us from learning that with a lot of hard work, the help of his family, and a chance encounter with a magazine writer, everything just fell in place. We also talked about SEMA builds, working out of a small shop, and how he was inspired by numerous custom painters to become the artist he is. Let's go back a ways.
Let's go way back.
Way back, because you're like this ancient guy.
Pretty much.
So were you like, into tagging and all that when you were younger, or where did this start? Were you painting models or what?
Yeah, well, like any gearhead nowadays, or our age, was always model cars and hot rod magazines and custom magazines and all that stuff. And then, fortunately, I had a father, Pat, that jumped the boat in 1950 from New York. When he landed in New York, ended up on Ohio. Didn't have a trade. Knew he wasn't going back to Italy because there wasn't that much further after the war. There really wasn't much left for him there. And so he knew he had to do something, so he somehow picked up a painter's prepper job at a Ford dealership in Ohio, Akron, Ohio. And don't ask me how he even ended up there, I don't know. My dad was very secretive. But anyway, he obviously married my mom, I think probably to stay here. and then I was surprised. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, this was in 1952 when I was born. Yes, I'm still here.
Wow.
Yeah, 52. He moved us to California in his 55 Ford Vicky in 1958. Drove across country, came to California for we don't know why.
Get tired of the winters, get tired of being cold?
That was probably one of them. And my mom had a brother that lived out here in Gardena in a pink trailer with his wife. Looked just like Ricky and Lucy's trailer, right? So believe it or not, that's where a family of four at that time moved in with my uncle and my aunt in this one trailer. Yeah, and my dad had the short Italian fuse. Okay, so that didn't last very long. Anyway, long story short, we ended up moving around Gardena ourselves, and he ended up becoming a painter's helper at Don Cott and Smaller Ford in Wilmington. And he literally drilled a little hole in the spray booth, put a piece of masking tape on it so he could watch the alcoholic painter paint cars. Well, the alcoholic painter kidney finally gave out, and the boss came to my dad and said, "Do you think you can paint?" And my dad said, "Yeah, I can do that." And this is in Dulux and Supermax synthetic enamel days, and oil lacquer,
if you're not
right?
paying attention.
And he became the painter. He became the painter desired in all of South Bay, Torrance, Lomita, Harbor City, Redondo Beach. He had customers in Palos Verdes that said, "I will not bring my car to you unless he paints it," that kind of thing. So anyway, he made quite a name for himself in his part of the industry. And I was hanging out with him since I was 5 years old. I was, he'd give me a roll of tape when I was 5, 6 years old, and I'd go, But anyway, as life progressed, it was kind of fortunately, unfortunately, already in my blood now. Because again, he wasn't much of a custom car guy. I mean, we went to some car shows together, and we went to Ascot Raceway, and we went places like that, but he wasn't a real gearhead. He could care less what he drove, in a sense. Didn't do any striping, didn't do any flames, didn't do any custom work. When the 60s came, about 66, 65, when the candies start coming, flakes start coming, he was one of those guys that said he had to try everything. So he picked up some flake and picked up some candies, and we ended up doing a lot of Hondas for Wilmington Honda.
So did you learn by watching, or was he like like a pretty good instructor showing you the basics of what was going on?
I learned by watching and a backhand.
Oh, okay.
Okay? A gentle backhand.
Sure.
Basically, the backhand was, don't do this for a living. This is from my father in the 60s and early, just because he knew it was a tough business back then. And it really hasn't gotten any better, as you know. But anyway, as far as easier. But he really didn't want me in the trenches. He wanted me to go to school, so I did a couple years of community college, and I was an art major. And my dad was friends with was a car designer, Harry Bradley.
Harry Bradley?
Sorry.
Okay. No.
That's embarrassing because Harry would come to my dad's shop quite often because he lived in PV. My dad's shop was in Torrance.
Okay.
And so I got to see Harry's car, and we discussed going to, art school. And back then he informed me that this is in, the late 60s, that tuition was $4,000 or $5,000 a semester. And you better have a whole lot of natural talent. Anyway, I didn't end up being a guy that was good with pencils and paper and paintings and all that. I mean, I could fake my way through, And so all this time, Dad would bring me home, work at my house, my mom in his house. He'd bring me side work. And then I was, again, studying magazines and stuff. And one of my best friends had a 305 Scrambler. And I said, let's paint that today. He goes, okay. So we did our first lace job, okay, and came out pretty cool, actually. And the rest is history, man. I just kept reading and studying and trying. And my dad would bring me home candies, and he'd bring me home, which I look back now, he'd bring me home jars of Murano pearls. I mean, boxes of Murano pearls, dude. And I didn't know really how to use it at 14 years old, 15 years old.
And even then, it wasn't anything. Now you look at it, this stuff's gold.
Yeah.
Try to find it. It's
Would you like a
gold.
diamond ring? No, just give me the jar of Murano.
Right.
Okay. So I was just taking Murano and putting it on top of solid colors and just doing disgusting things with it, But then I got good enough with the bikes because they were small enough for me to do at home, even though I was doing some body work and stuff too. But Dad got me hooked up with Hawthorne Norton BSA Triumph dealership. And they thought my dad was painting the bikes. They didn't know that 14-year-old kid was painting their bikes. So I'd paint them in the garage, and he'd take them and get my money and bring it back to me. And they had no idea that, I guess to this day, that they had some young teenager painting their bikes. So that was kind of the beginning of my motorcycle painting and moving forward type days.
So you were painting cars in high school then? This was...
Yeah, I never painted a whole car until I had my own shop.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't paint a complete by my... I picked up the gun with my dad in the booth. I've done a ton of spot jobs. I've done all that stuff, but to actually walk in the booth with a gallon of Supermax or Dulux and paint that car by myself, I didn't do it until I got my shop in 77. Now, I did do some lacquer jobs like on Corvettes for my dad, and then he made me hand rub them because he didn't trust me with a buffer. That was joyful. The actual complete painting I didn't do until I was 25 years old. So yeah, but I was doing stripes and graphics, and I'd read, I'd study, I'd go to car shows, take pictures. I still got pictures from the 60s, man. So anyway, I was just kind of self-taught, I guess you could say.
So you worked with Dad painting motorcycles. Did you go to work in any other shops, or was your shop your first?
My shop from when I was probably 13, 14 years old until I met Kenny. I moved over there in 1977, so that would have made me 25 years old, 24 years old. So I was painting in my mom's garage from being a teenager till my early 20s. That's how I made a living. And then I'd go to my dad's shop on Saturdays and work with him there. And so I really never had a clock-in job. And then I started playing music. And so I was doing that at nighttime when I was over 21. So I was playing nightclubs at nighttime, taking 15 units in college, doing side work in the garage, and then going to work with my dad on Saturdays.
You were a busy guy.
Yeah, but you know what? I was the only guy that was 20 years old, had $10,000 in his bank account. Okay?
There you
I
go.
bought my first house. Of course, I only had to put $10,000 down, but I bought my first house at 25 years old. I was a miser with money, man. I mean, even back in the 60s when we were doing funny things,
Right. Sure.
I always just used everybody else's.
Save your money.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a good life. I was making cash. I mean, back then we were getting $350 to paint a motorcycle, but Dad was bringing home materials from work, and $350 at the end of the week was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, there you are.
So you're 25 when you open your first shop?
Legally, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you go get the business license.
Right, sure.
You do all that crap. Actually, you take something you love and you screw it up and turn it into a business. That's what I did.
That's what you did. That is so true. Oh, that is so true. Now you're away from Dad. I mean, obviously, Dad still kind of got you're in the middle of whatever he's doing, but now you're chasing your own customers. So, what did you go after? Were you trying to do custom stuff?
I got to tell you, Brad, my whole life, I think, for some reason or other, I think I was one of God's favorite guys because I didn't have to work at anything. I never had to advertise. I mean, my career just happened. I mean, it just landed in my lap. I mean, I came in 1977, I met Kenny Tomashiro, who was a pinstriper down the street here in Westminster. And he was very much influenced by Tom Kelly.
Okay.
And so he had the same style, did very good lettering. And he just had a little two-stall shop. And I brought a motorcycle. I never used a pinstriper in my life. Never. Even though Tom Kelly was my neighbor, I never used a pinstripe. And because I used to just do it all with tape and paint it. So anyway, this particular bike, I don't know why, I'm going to go find a pinstriper. So I met Kenny, and he striped bike, and he goes, well, where are you doing this at? And I told him, he goes, well, why don't you come over here with me, hang out, and you can use one of my stalls. Cool. So I brought my little Craftsman air compressor and my Bink 7, and moved into the shop down the street with Kenny, and learned a lot with Kenny as far as pinstriping and the lettering and just that part of the business. And I really wish I would have picked up more pinstriping because I would love to be able to do what you do and a lot of other guys. I mean, because you guys basically can travel the world with a little fish and tackle box full of $12 paint and brushes and work your way.
It's like $13.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. If you buy Von Dago,
Right.
you buy Von Dagos, they're $12.50. Okay, and you get a submarine sandwich with it
And
too.
you get a sandwich with it.
But anyway, so I met Kenny, and it was a 1, 2, 3. Okay, it was 2 bays, a middle bay, and then a 3-stall body shop with a booth, all in the same complex. And after a while, a couple of years with Kenny, I was just, like I said, customers just showed up, or Kenny would talk them into, hey, instead of just doing a double line, why don't you have my friend Peter do like a 1-inch candy line or something, or a panel job, or something like that. So that helped out. And then the guy in the middle building, he moved out. So the landlady asked me, would you like that building? Sure, okay. Moved into that one too. And then the guy that owned the body shop, he was a drunk. So he would never, he would show up in the morning, point his finger at his 2 helpers, and disappear for the rest of the day drinking. So finally he never came back. So I didn't even know if the guy croaked or what. So there was a booth and a frame pulling system, or just a floor system, air compressor, office.
And you never saw that guy again. It just
Never saw him again. Landlady come over and goes, would you like that shop too? And I go, well, how much is it? And she goes, $600 a month. And I went, oh God, $600 a month? I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Right.
And so I talked to my dad, and he goes, you can do it. Just go do it. And he goes, don't get it. Because I had one guy, the old body man from that shop wanted to stay on and be a partner. And my dad went, psh, you're not getting any partners, which I'm very grateful for today. But anyway, so that's how it evolved into a body shop.
Okay.
I was paying her back then $3,300 a month for rent. That was a lot of money.
In '88?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah. So I said, I got to get out of here. So this shop used to be a Volkswagen Porsche repair and body shop. That's why the booth is small, the bays are small, the office is small, the bathroom is small, everything is small. And as we progress in our conversation here, when you start doing dually crew cabs, okay. But so anyway, this shop property came up to buy, and my gracious, loving father, I said, Pop, I need a loan, but basically I just need you to give me some money. I said, if you got anything for me after you're gone, I'd rather have it now so you can enjoy what I do with it. And he did. So he helped me out. We bought this place in '88, and we paid way over stupid money for this place.
So you've owned this place a long time now.
Yeah, we finally paid it off about 4 or 5 years ago now. Like I said, I didn't bang on doors. I didn't do anything but just, I wasn't even a good business. I had no idea even how to run a business. I didn't know anything about payroll taxes and taxes. Of course, we didn't have the AQMD and all that crap that we do now, but I didn't know anything about that. It was like, you bring me your car, here's a little notepad I bought at the drugstore. There's your receipt, here, $200, there you go, So, yeah, everything has just been self-learned, self-taught, self-experienced. I've made a lot of mistakes, tremendous amount of mistakes. And again, I got blessed and I got picked up. Okay, that problem's gone, move on.
Let's forward into the magazine era.
Okie dokie.
Okay, you were everywhere. Holy crap, you were everywhere.
Yeah, I know, and I'll tell you a story when we get into this.
So how did you get your foot in with the magazine? Because magazines.
Again, I didn't work at it. I had a guy working for me that was really hip on the industry name people, like the Tom Taylors, the Steve Stanfords, these guys. He knew about the magazines. He knew all this. I didn't. I just painted cars, went to work, I went home. I didn't care. Anyway, he got me hooked up with Tom Taylor, and Tom did my first business cards that I didn't do. And I started learning about Steve Koonin and other guys in the industry, and I started realizing that some of these names you better get to know. I was at work one Saturday. I was actually getting ready to paint my cousin's '79 Corvette pearl yellow. And I'm there by myself working, and this guy comes up my driveway. And he goes, "Hi, I'm Jeff Smith from Carcraft Magazine." I go, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Because I want to do an article on you. I've heard things about you." "Okay, what have you heard?" And it was, "Yeah, just,
Should I be nervous?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good or a bad. It was just like, you're up and coming, and you're starting to make a name for yourself. And like I said, I've just been doing local cars, dude. But I was doing, like I said, at that age, with hair down past my shoulders, and my crew average age was 19 years old, and they all had hair down to their waist and firing up dubs on the side of the building and that kind of thing. Again, we were just watched over. And so he goes, "Can I take some pictures?" And he did. I said, "Okay, great, nice meeting you." And next thing I know, it was in Jeff Smith's, a long time ago, he had a column called High Risers. And it was up and coming people. And I got to make that list. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Then being affiliated with Peterson Publication at the time, it evolved into Four Wheel and Off-Road Magazine. They wanted some project off-road Toyota truck done. They wanted a Cherokee Jeep done, Yukon Runner and all this. And so I started doing stuff for them and trade, obviously getting the ink and the promotion and all that. And again, I didn't realize how potent that was and how effective that is, that media. Magazine was. And then as time has went on, it was like, Four Wheel and Off-Road, Carcraft Magazine, Hot Rod Magazine. And then next thing you know, we got McMullen and Yee, and I'm doing things for trucking and sport truck and custom rodder and rod and custom. And it was just, I came into this industry, I think it was like a perfect timing. It was kind of like when the Beatles came in here with their style of music. I mean, we were all into Motown and Beach Boy music and stuff like that, and the Beatles bring in this British sound that it was like, oh my gosh, if they would have came in a year or two earlier, they would have never made it, So I came in.
So you're the Ringo Starr of the custom paint world.
Yeah, we had the matching nose. I was fortunate enough to come in, and again, back in 77, 78 legally, where Bill Carter was pretty much really ending his career, at least as a, own my own shop. And a lot of guys were that way, and there wasn't a lot of painters in Orange County that were doing what I was doing because there was nobody else doing it. And so I think I capitalized on that with the media because I was in Orange County. I was doing stuff that I know of that other people might not have been doing yet or doing. And again, it just fell in my lap, the timing.
Your timing was perfect.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I love the fact that I grew up in the 60s and 70s. To me, we still had the best music and the best cars. And, people say now, it's like, well, you're getting up there, you're thinking about pulling the plug. I go, no. What am I going to do? Watch reruns of Gilligan's Island and gain another 500 pounds? No. So, no. People always complain, when you get old, you can't do this, you can't do that. To me, it's a privilege to get old because a lot of people don't get to do that. So
you still go to work and you still walk or you do stuff. So yeah, you sit on an easy chair and you're gonna put weight on, or you're just gonna go, I don't want to do anything. You still do it.
Yeah.
You still go to work and
still get down on my knees and paint rocker panels in the booth.
There you go.
And then still help my son in the office and this and that. So yeah, I enjoy the exercise part of it. I really do. I watched my dad. My dad didn't pass away from anything other than the brain going with dementia. So his body and his strength was good because he did this until he was 80.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I pray that I can keep going. And like probably most self-employed people, I don't know about yourself, but most self-employed people don't do a whole lot of investing for the future. Where you get a 401k or you get, I bought 2 pieces of property or my corporation's meeting this and they're going to give me a pension when I'm done and I'm going to get a free health plan and all that good stuff because I work for the school system or the county this is it, man. I got my house, I got my shop and $12. That's about it. I'm good. And I own 20 primered cars. How's that?
Nice.
Yeah.
20 primered cars. Okay, so lots of magazine coverage. Oh God, you were everywhere.
Yeah.
You were everywhere.
It was amazing. If we weren't on the cover or the fold or a feature, we were in one of the ads.
Yeah, you were everywhere.
So again, it was phenomenal. I couldn't have asked. I'm so grateful to the publications and all the editors I've met through my life. That was big favor.
Any awards? We talked a little bit about the Grand National Roadster Show, and I know some mini truck stuff. So what all have you been? Well, since you had your hand on everything, what have they gifted you? Obviously people appreciate you because they kept coming back and going, hey. So what kind of appreciation have you been shown?
You mean in the industry?
Yeah.
Well, we've been very fortunate. 2019. Pre-Rona, we were inducted into the Grand National Hall of Fame, which was a big honor considering
awesome.
The people that are in there, okay? And so that was good. 2 years ago, I got inducted to the West Coast Hall of Fame, West Coast Customs Hall of Fame. We've had numerous awards in the city and, obviously numerous awards at car shows with cars that we've either participated in. We've won during this for SEMA vehicles. We were very much involved with that for 15, 20 years. And we did a lot of cars for Ford, Chrysler, and GM. And we won Chrysler's pick and Ford's pick before. So we've had some pretty cool things. And I'm telling you, this isn't a high-tech, high-end shop. The stuff that we've been putting out, when people come here from out of the country, when I was doing all that Japanese exporting stuff in the 90s, everything I painted went.
Right, it's gone.
I mean, even now they're asking me to bring trucks to the Grand National Truck Show in a couple of weeks. I got to go to Japan. They're all.
I worked on a ton of stuff that went to Japan. Yeah. Tons of stuff. Yeah. Yes.
And so
They walk in the shop and it wasn't what they were expecting to see, huh?
Yeah. They'd come in and they'd go, okay, we got to go to Disneyland, but we got to stop at Santini's, okay? And they'd come out and they'd go, first of all, is Santini here? Because I'd be in painted pants and messed up hair and dirty hands, and well, that's me. And they kind of glance over the shop and they go, is this it? I go, pretty much it, Like, oh, okay. So if you want to see checkerboard floors, you got to see Boyd's show on TV, okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, again, it is amazing. Even in the old shop, we were doing Ferraris and Porsches back then, and exotics. And then when we came here, started doing all the custom stuff. And I mean, this, where you're sitting right now, these two stalls, that was my haven. Nobody entered it. Nobody brought any other work from the rest of the shop in here. This was my shop.
This was your shop?
Right here.
Wow.
Even though I got
okay.
four more bays or whatever. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. And I would just bring in the 2 Chevy trucks or whatever I was doing, or a motorcycle there, or a boat over here, and I'd bang out graphics all day long. I don't even know how I did it. I don't know how I did it. How did I survive financially when I had someone in the office I don't really even know, kind of taking care of the finances and the buildings and all this stuff, and I'm over here doing that. And then with the phone and with the communications with the customers, and then doing some design work so I can present the customers, and then having the time to come in here and actually do the work. And I was clear coated in here and everything, man. I mean, everything.
So were you, okay, so back to the designing thing. So were you like coloring stuff in, marker design, showing somebody?
Yeah, I was basically a colored pencil guy. No shadows, no highlights. Basically, this red simulates candy red. This green pencil simulates pearl green,
Okay.
that kind of thing. And I was, again, fortunate enough to have my friend Tom Taylor now. He would do line drawings. When trucking or somebody would hire him to do a feature or whatever. So I was asking him, can I Xerox some of the extra cabs, dualies, Ford trucks, Chevy Blazers, whatever, and he'd let me Xerox. So I'd have files of all these outlines.
Well, that made it real easy.
Oh, it was bitchin'.
Here's your truck. Here's your truck with paint on it.
And I mean, and it, like I said, it was pretty crude. I still have them, but it was really funny when I was doing that, especially again going back to the Japanese exporting thing. We had probably a half a dozen or more exporters we were dealing with. And they had to have Boyd wheels, Santini paint. Well, it was me, maybe Doug Starr, but a few other guys. But,
right.
But for the most part, there was a small little group family. Boyd wheels and Bell Texas parts and suspension and blah, blah, blah. So you would do something for one Japanese client, and he would come in and see 2 other trucks from another competitor. Oh, what you doing to that one? I said, I'm doing, you do more on mine, okay? Okay, but more is more money. It's okay.
It's okay.
So I'd do his. And then the third guy would come in and see those 2 guys. What are you doing? Oh, well, I want the Cadillac taillight set. No problem. We can do that, So that kind of helped out. But again, even to corporations, I was bringing colored pencil drawings and go, look, it's going to have fades and it's going to have flake and it's going to have,
But they already knew your work. That's why they were already talking to you. So
I just wanted
let me give you an idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a general area and a general color. Usually I would ask them, what's your favorite color and what's your least favorite color, and then take it from there. So, anyway, so again, it just landed in my lap.
So you've influenced a lot of custom painters.
That's what I've heard.
You have. Not me, but you've influenced.
Well, you never liked me. That's why you never. That's why you never striped any. You're always at my friend's Dick Vale's shop and Billy B's,
That's
but
right.
you wouldn't come to my shop.
Do your stuff.
I would call you and you'd go, "You can't afford
I'm
me."
too busy.
Yeah.
Don't have time for you. So who influenced you? So back, you got to go back, and I can think of a few custom painters back in the 70s, and so who influenced you?
It kind of breaks down with me into decades. Like the 60s when I was still pretty young. I mean, we had you had the Gene Winfields, and you had the Art Himsels, and you had the Dick Jacksons, and you had Yosemite Sam, and you had Greg of Akron. You have, all those guys.
Greg of Akron.
That guy was hot, man.
Man, I remember him.
George Pullum, I think I said Yosemite, and Junior Conway,
Junior huge.
and Rod Powell. So you had those guys that were from the 50s, 60s. And of course Watson. Watson's in a league of his own.
Right.
He's a multi-decade guy as far as I'm concerned. But then again, Watson being an influencer, this is where my career started. Influencers. Those guys were like when I was young going to car shows, and I'm just going ooh ah.
Okay.
When I finally picked up the gun and started the shop in the 70s, then the styles had changed, so that's where I came in. And I was always amazed by funny cars and drag boats. To me, they were still, to this day, the most beautifully painted vehicles known to mankind, along with a lot of lowriders. But I'm just saying, to me, the colors, the complementary colors, when you're putting cobalt blue against lime green and, magentas and tequila sunrise blends of oranges, and it just fascinates me. And the hero to that, as you probably know, is Bill Carter. Okay. I mean, Billy Carter, if you look at my other friends and heroes, how much influence he's had on the industry, period. Okay, we go up to Watson, and the scallop thing and the lace thing kind of ends. Billy takes it and goes into this beautiful color, tonal blends, nothing really crazy, crisscrossing, not even a lot of flames, just some beautiful panels and tape fades. And so anyway, you had Bill, and then you had, Bill influenced a lot of lowrider. I mean, there was Walt Prey, and there was, there was Mario, and
What about Tom Stratton?
I got Tom on my list.
Okay.
I got Stratton on my list, along with George Kirby and Nat Quick. Okay.
Don Kirby.
And George Cerny.
Wow. Okay.
And Mario Gomez. Now, and also who used to work with Bill that nobody really knows about is a guy named Bobby Von Salt. That he disappeared. He lives in Kansas now, and he used to work with Billy. And I won't tell you the nickname Billy had for him because we'd get
right.
Okay.
Don't get in trouble.
Yeah. But anyway, so those guys, and I tell you, to this day, Bill still influences Carter. Okay. So the rest of those names were now the 70s to getting into the 80s. Then when you get into the 80s, a lot of these guys quit. And so I'm still trying to do what other guys are doing or being influenced by other guys. So then we had, to me, today, even still, this guy is probably the most talented guys I've ever known. He's one of those guys you hate because he can illustrate, he can letter.
I already know who you're going to say.
He can do hang-on-the-wall paintings.
One of my heroes, absolutely.
Painted every funny car that I've known to mankind. Yep. And I'm talking about John Pugh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Love the guy, hate the guy. Okay. I mean, the guy is absolutely, he's an alien. Anyway, I got to meet him a long time ago in the 90s when we did the Mobile One car for Tom McEwen, and he was going to paint it. He was getting out of that dragster thing. I went over to McEwen's with Kenny Youngblood, and he introduced me to Pugh. So I'm with Youngblood, I'm with McEwen, right? And I'm still like a kid in a candy store. Anyway, John looked at me and goes, "I know your stuff," and blah blah blah. And he pulls me aside. He goes, "You want my list of all these drag racer guys?" He goes, "I am done with these people, man. They drive you crazy." So anyway, we still keep in touch. Like I said, I totally admire the guy. But and then you had Danny D,
right,
who was absolutely the closest thing I ever saw to Mario.
Quite amazing.
Walt.
Absolutely amazing.
And Gary Baca. One of my big heroes, that kind of an unsung hero because he went corporate right away, was Molly. I went to his funeral. He was one guy I never shook hands with, and I regret that. But then again, now we got into the 90s, and I still had heroes. And one of my biggest heroes was Dick Vale. It was funny, Dick and I were both doing the magazine thing with the trucks and doing the RG Canning car show thing with our customers. And he was doing more drag boats than me, but I was doing more trucks and stuff than him and that kind of thing. So we went to an RG Canning show, and my group of people were across from his group of people. Nothing to do with him and I personally being there. And there was bad things being said back and forth. Your truck sucks, your truck sucks. And I didn't like that. And I realized that the public was putting animosity between me and a fellow person I admire in the industry. I don't like that. If you're a good guy and you do good work, I want to be your friend.
Sure.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to learn off you, and hopefully you can learn off of me. So I go to Dick's shop, which was only 3 miles from here, one night about 6 o'clock, because I know he worked all night like me. And I had this old Binks primer gun, just caked with primer. And you know how he's always at the shop by himself.
Right.
And I come in the door, and I go, hey, anybody here? And he goes, I'll be with you in a minute. What do you want? I go, I'm looking for a job. He goes, okay, I'll be right out. And he comes around the corner, and I got the spray gun like this, and he goes, you SOB. I can't freaking believe it. So we hugged.
Got a primer gun in your hand.
So we hugged, we sat down in his office, had some red licorice and a Marlboro.
Of course.
And
Sure.
It was funny. I'm looking at his walls. I go, in my cheat book, I got the picture of that, a picture of that, a picture of that, a picture of that, a picture of that. He goes, really? In my cheat book. Okay. And so from that moment on, we just hit it off. So him and Billy B. Because to me, there isn't another boat painter in the world, maybe Bill Carter.
You're not going to find a bigger personality than Bill.
Yeah. But I mean, Bill's talent, and again, the usage of colors is unsurpassable. And I used to have pictures of Bill's boat, his brothers and his boat, and a couple other boats, as screensavers on my monitor in my office, because I used to judge the John Force show, and he would bring boats out to the John Force show, right? And I'd take a picture of his boat. And so he found out I was using his boats he goes, I can't believe you put pictures of my stuff on your monitor. I said, dude, your stuff is badass. Of course it is, you know? So now I'll tease him every once in a while. He'll post a new picture of a boat he did, and I go, cool, finding a new screensaver for me.
Screensaver page.
So anyway, totally admire Billy too. And again, but you can see Bill Carter's influence to me and Dick and a lot of people in this industry now.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, even Pew.
Absolutely.
I mean, Pew's amazing, but I mean, you can see that whole butterscotch fade thing, Billy. So anyway, those are my heroes. My number one hero, though, is still my dad. So there you go. But you know what? You're my hero now,
Look
okay?
at that. Okay, so your kids. So are your kids following in your footsteps at all?
I knew you were going to go there.
We're going to go there.
Okay. Where's my son? He's over here somewhere. Okay, I got two boys. One now is in his early 50s, and my youngest, who just turned 43. I told both those boys, you will never do this for a living. The same thing my dad told me. You're not painting cars. You can come to work with me on Saturdays. In fact, my daughter and my older boy used to come and clean airbrush bottles for Kenny Tomashiro and clean his brushes for him. Okay. Both my sons would paint. We were very much into slot cars back then, small ones. So they'd paint their own bodies. They'd paint skateboard decks, and they'd do RC. And then my youngest son, who's with me here, he picked up enough talent to do RC bodies for a few hobby stores and stuff. But I said, you're not gonna paint cars. So about 16 years ago, you know, this business was financially way, way, way deep in the hole. We were almost done because I ran it into the ground. Not buying frivolous stuff, just not managing it right. So my wife said, we're in trouble. So I'm coming to work. Get rid of the manager in the office because he's burning you. And so Nicky, that's my son. He's been here for, like I said, 16 years plus. I told him, yeah, you can come to work here, but you're not painting cars. I want you in the office. I want you to do the media. I want you to do the t-shirts, the paraphernalia, marketing, all that stuff. Because he was working for a couple of surf shops back at the time. And he said, sure, okay. And so anyway, he's been an absolute backbone, blessing, keep me above water, keep me straight, not afraid to tell me, drop the temper right now, drop the attitude right now, or I'm out of here. He's not afraid to put me in my place, and I need that. The sacrifice he has made in his life financially, because he's got a lot of friends that are making pretty good money for doing almost nothing, managing hotels and doing this and doing that and doing some hunky-dory computer job, you know. He's had opportunities to go make really good money and do things, and he said, I can't leave you, Dad, first of all, you don't know how to work a computer, so you can't do the office. And I can't leave you and Mom. I just can't. So he's got the Italian heart, okay? And he's been an amazing asset. He's pretty talented. I wish I would have taught him more, but he does go in the booth with me now once in a while, and he can handle a gun. I just got to teach him, mixtures and what happens when you get in trouble, and that's the big part of this business. Is a lot of people can paint, a lot of people can do things, but when you get in trouble at 8 o'clock at night in the spray booth, how do you get out of it? Okay, so all those little tricks. So anyway, he's a blessing, and I always tease him. I go, just think, someday this is all going to be yours with 20 unfinished cars. I got some really cool customers, man. I mean, some of these cars are here longer than they need to be. I hate cars that go to, as we call it, body shop jail.
Lots of those places.
Yeah.
Never seen them again.
But all we do is make sure that when we're done, it was worth the wait. Okay? It's like waiting for homemade pasta versus a jar of sauce. Okay? So that's what I'm hoping. Thank you.
Pete.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. An honor to do this. I'm glad I answered the phone.
Right? Me too.
So it's nice to have you here. It was nice to be able to talk to you in this manner. Well, thank you.
Thank you again, sir.
Now maybe you'll pinstripe something for me down the road.
Right.